Hello, everyone.
Today's the big day.
Today, we are here to share the truth with you. I wrote this out, so I did write it out a little to get us started.
I got no notes. I'm going off the top of my head. That's how I do.
Just to get us started, not because we're afraid to speak, but because I don't want to run on emotion, and we know that I can run on emotion.
Yes, you can.
What we're about to share here matters, and it's going to impact more than just us, especially if you're in our local community.
It's going to impact the United States. Every citizen within the United States. I'll fill you in later. Go ahead.
So if I look down a little bit here and there, just know that it's because it's so important that we share the truth with you. But please ask questions along the way. And if we don't address them during the live, he's bailing on me already, guys. If we don't address them on the live, we will come back to the comments later so that we can share them with you. Before anything else, we want to give glory to God. Because the only reason we're still standing, the only reason we're still here together, even though you abandoned me right now, we're just kidding. But truthfully, it's because God has carried us through, and because of that, He's carried us through seasons that we truly didn't think we'd survive. He has carried us when doors stayed closed. He's carried us when paperwork kept coming, and He is still carrying us now. And, this isn't our own strength. This is His strength, and this is the faithfulness of God. And so we're going to get started, and it's a little weird saying weird because Kyle's not back yet, but we're going to get started. And if you're just joining us, I just ask that you don't scroll yet, that you just hear this part. What we're about to share did not start with our house. The house is just a part that people recognize. It's the part that people can relate most to. What we're dealing with goes back years, quietly, legally, on paper, and that is the reason that we're finally speaking out, because there's so much happening all at once right now, and God has shown us that this is the time to bring it to light. So if you're local, hang on, because there's a lot that's going to be shared here, especially once Kyle starts speaking. But I thought it would be important that, maybe for those of you who don't really know us, that we tell you a little bit about who we are. And so, because I believe that context matters, right? So we are Crystal and Kyle, when he gets back, Green. That was his cue. He knows my tone after 19 years, right? Here it comes.
I couldn't find what I was looking for. I'll wait for later.
So we are Crystal and Kyle Green here. We are a homeschooling family. We are a homesteading family. We raise our children. We work with our hands. We live simply. We're not activists looking for a fight. We're not trying to be loud. We're not trying to tear anything down. We just want to live in peace, raise our kids, worship God, and exercise the God-given freedoms we believe every family should have. You can't do this the whole time.
I understand.
So, maybe we'll restart and come back when you're ready. So, I'm just kind of pulling down to make sure I can see on comments and stuff. Okay, so last night I went live on my page, and I asked people to stand with us, not to panic, not to react emotionally, but to pray, to pay attention, and to care about the truth. Today, Kyle and I are doing this live together. When he comes back side by side, we will be doing this together.
I'm here. I just had to look again.
You're banned from leaving.
I'm not leaving anymore.
People are like, who's this lady on Kyle's page?
My bad.
We're going to do this together, side by side, because this isn't something Kyle is carrying alone, and this isn't something I'm speaking about for him. We're walking this together under God. And so I also want to acknowledge something else, because people that are watching this come from very different places. Some of you maybe know Kyle from growing up. Maybe you went to school together. Maybe you've known him for most of your lives. You've seen him grow into a faithful, God-fearing husband, dad, pappy. And some of you know us from Farmers Market locally. You bought our breads. You came and talked to our kids over the summer. We had beautiful talks about scripture and faith and hope and encouragement. And you got to see a little bit about how we live. And some of you just know us online through my following, through what I've posted over the years, videos, posts, whatever it is. You've been following our journey from a distance. No matter how you know us, this impacts more than just us. Because this isn't about whether or not you like us. It's not about whether or not you agree with every choice we've ever made. It's about what happens when systems that are supposed to protect families stop doing that. And if you think that it can't touch families like yours, that's not true. We chose to do this on Kyle's page intentionally because many of you watching here are local. You live here. You raise families here. The names we're going to reference are not abstract. They belong to people who hold authority in this county.
Calling them out. And I'm going to show you how.
And while this may, watching this may be far beyond Minnesota, what we're talking about today is happening right here. But we're going to start with the house case. Not because it's where it all began, because it's not, but because this is where most people can finally see what we've been dealing with. Your home is sacred, property matters, due process matters, and I need you to hear this clearly. This is local for us, but it's not isolated. We've been hearing from families all over that are dealing with the same things. I didn't know how this could happen until it happened to me, is what we hear. Different details, same kind of pressure. Everything we're sharing today is documented. It is public record. It is verifiable. We will be naming names only where those who appear, in filings, court orders, or official actions. This is not rumor. This is not speculation. This is record. And I want to be very clear about why Kyle can speak on this. It's not because he decided to suddenly speak to you and tell you, but because he has spent years inside these cases, filing motions, studying statutes, preserving evidence, and challenging actions through the system itself. He's not reacting. He's responding from the record. And I'm asking you to stay with us, even when it gets uncomfortable, because it will. It really will. Because once you see how this works, you can't unsee it. And because truth doesn't belong to any one family. We trust God with the outcome. We trust Him with our family, with our home, with the truth. He's carried us and He's still carrying us. But today we're here to share with you maybe things you've speculated, maybe things you didn't know what to think of, or you thought maybe that green guy's just out there filing another lawsuit, writing another letter. What's he up to? But we're sharing with you today so that you can finally understand, and as a form of our protection. Kyle is fighting against his freedom right now, and we will get into that. But we'll start with you where it hits home for most people, and that's our house case. So, Kyle, I'm going to give it to you to start with maybe helping people understand how our house case connects to the bigger part of the fight.
Okay. Crystal is going to keep me on a tight leash.
I am.
Because I'm a litigator. There's three types of litigators. There's draft animals, rainmakers, and racehorses. And I'm probably a little more racehorse than draft animal, but a racehorse is a guy who can just go right off the top of his head. He can cite case law, statutory authority right off the top of his head. And I have a tendency, when I start to talk, to dump everything I know on the issue. So, starting with the house. The house case, we bought this property back in 2017, and from our friend Peter Simpson. A lot of you in the community know Peter, probably have worked for Peter, know him. He's quite a quirky guy, but man, did that man have the money argument down to a T. And Peter, he passed away, and we started paying the remainder of our property, what is it called, a mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay. To, according to Peter's directions. Peter instructed us to pay his daughters, and his daughters came to us after receiving $8,400 from us. This was since Peter had passed. They got $8,400, and they told us to stop paying them because they are not the trustees. So we did. Let me talk.
I know, I stopped.
A year and a half later, they brought an eviction action against us. And it's very important for people who have to be pro se litigants and fight their own legal battles. I've poked and prodded every angle of the judicial system regarding every type of action I've either had to fight or have consulted on. So monitoring the docket is a very important skill that people have to learn. And that's very simply, if a complaint is filed against you, you go to the courthouse or you look it up online and you look at the docket. In Minnesota, they use a register of actions a lot. That's the same thing. And you see what has been filed and what you filed or what they filed. Everything that's been filed and submitted by the courts, you have to look at it. Through this eviction, Crystal monitored the tax records.
Keep in mind they were evicting people that already owned the house.
Yes, they tried to evict the homeowners of the
The
house.
trust by then had already abandoned any contract.
Correct.
Died with Peter.
The judge in this case was Chief Judge Stephanie Beckman. And let me tell you, that's a judge. She makes you do everything by the book, admittedly to somewhat of a frustrating level sometimes. But
She
it is
has
what
a
it is.
soul. She has a soul.
So Judge Beckman had ruled that, according to the evidence we had submitted, that these trustees were not the trustees or the owners, and that the trust has not proven itself to be an owner of this property. So we won it.
Hold on, you guys. Alexa off.
Hate that thing.
Real life is going to happen here. Our kids might even wake up eventually here.
So, beyond that, they haven't yet addressed the fact that if you have a homestead property in Minnesota, it's actually illegal to bring an eviction against the homestead. But we had to fight an illegal eviction action anyway. On top of that, Crystal discovered in the tax records that I call the daughters, the trustees, I call them the bimbos. The bimbos had hired a local attorney and law firms, attorneys and law firms. And those the law firm one, if I remember off the top of my head, was, I believe it's called Thompson, Sperry, Jensen, Kaitan. And it's allegedly no longer a law firm. I'll come back to that in a second. In addition to them, it was Jensen and Cross in Litchfield. And Jensen and Cross, headed by Larry Jensen and Brian Cross, submitted fraudulent tax records to the Meeker County auditor, alleging that their clients owned this property. Crystal called the tax record fraud. I put it into the court documents, and now we ended up suing the bimbos and their attorneys in state and federal court for offering a false instrument for filing. Okay, that's a fraud. The Jensen and Cross's lawyer down in Minneapolis, I think it is, he's trying to get them off the hook, claiming they weren't served. The problem that they have is that they were served in the federal case with the same bag of information that was in the, there was a blue bag that had the state case and the federal case together. They admitted service in the federal case, but they don't want to admit service in the state case. Same document. They even admitted on the record that they got the same bag. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is.
Grab that paper right there.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the whole thing.
Oh. So when that was discovered, we brought it to the attention of the court, and the court hasn't yet addressed those issues yet. That's still in litigation, so I'm not going to touch on them too much. However, what we did discover from two Meeker County auditors,
We won't say their names.
I'm saying both of their first names,
Okay.
Pixie and Barb,
Who are no longer there anymore.
who are no longer auditors. Anyhow, they informed us that Jensen and Cross got the okay to submit this false document from Meeker County Attorney Brandy Schiefelbein.
And let me cut in a little bit. What the document was a cancellation of contract. The problem is the girls that, Peter's daughters, they had come in and we actually were under
Hold
the
on,
guise.
stop. You're going to overrun them with law.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I promise. I'm not as smart as you. I can. But they had filed something called a cancellation of contract. And this is where you have to be careful because there was no confirmation done
There's
on
no
the
contract.
auditor's side. That contract doesn't exist. It wasn't real. Their attorney, Cross, he created, his office created
Yes.
that contract. And they
Under a
filed
false name.
Under a false name. And so when I had called the auditors back in, February and March, or when all the times, right? I was sent this cancellation of contract through email from Pixie, who's no longer employed there now. And that's what we went to the judge, basically, this was filed, okay? And so in June, the eviction case that they brought to us, so basically they came in last November, we shared this with you guys. If you don't recall, they came into our house, they broke into our house, they walked right up into our hallway.
Let me say, the burglars were Jenny Adams and former Meeker County Sheriff Deputy Jim Adams.
Who stood outside, which we have on
AKA
camera.
Shadow Man.
We have on camera that he was standing outside, and he's admitted that he protects his wife, so we can only assume. And so they broke into our house to serve us these fraudulent eviction papers, and then they filed this fake cancellation of contract. The auditors,
I'm going to cut you off.
No, I'm getting to this
Because
point.
I know.
Okay.
But you're going back and arguing the eviction. That's not relevant.
Well, I was just letting them know that
I'm letting them know.
healed it.
No. I'm letting them know
Okay.
to just focus on what's going on. They don't have to know the litigation side.
All I wanted them to know was that it was cleared.
It is clear. I just said that when I was talking before you
Okay.
wanted these papers. Okay. When Beckman ruled in favor
Let
of
you
us for
talk.
the eviction.
You
Thank
talk.
you. So now we've won the eviction, and now we're dealing with the fraud case on the bimbos and their attorneys and the Meeker County county attorney, who, by the way, last year, 2024, she made $143,000 of taxpayers' money to do this type of stuff. And I assure you, if she's allowing it for us, she's allowed it for other people. So my question to all of you people out there, if you're in Meeker County and there's been an eviction against you, or if there's been some sort of real estate squabble against you, and Brian Cross, Larry Jensen, or Brandy Schiefelbein were any party of that, you need to investigate that, because you may need to reopen that case, because it appears that this is nothing more than a land piracy. That's what these attorneys are getting paid for, just to take from people. We brought it to federal court, and per usual, if you read the Battered Women's Bible, she's, I believe, chapter 5 in that, for a reason to stay out of federal court. That is available through Red Horse Publishing.
Plug.
Staying out of federal court is quite an important task, because you have if you want to see a level of corruption that you've never seen before, step into a federal courthouse. Now, I'm going to give you a statistic that, from all accounts I've seen, rings quite accurate. It's the 97% that make the 3% look bad. And what that means is 97% of lawyers and judges aren't doing their job. Judges come into court and they say, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what you're being charged with. But you're on trial for a case that the judge doesn't even know what you're on trial for, which means the judge hasn't read anything. And this is what is it called? There's a pandemic of this judicial incompetence, state and federal. You'll see more of it at the federal level than you will at the state. Although there are, well, I can't say there are anymore. I will say that 97% does not apply to federal judges. It applies to state judges. Yeah, I don't think it would apply to the feds. I have never seen a federal judge. I take that back. There was a judge in California that, a couple of years back, that ruled on a Second Amendment issue that was spot on. But you can, when a district court judge actually follows the law, you can guarantee that the appellate court will overturn it, especially when it comes to the issue that was raised. But anyway, so we got thrown out of federal court, which was to be expected, which needed to happen, because what I needed to do is establish a record on state and federal court. Because when a party takes a position in a court case, there's a thing called estoppel. I argued that the sky is red. You say the sky is blue. If I say no, that sky is absolutely red, you could do a motion to take judicial notice and ask the court to say that estoppel would stop me from saying, oh no, the sky is blue. I have to now argue that the sky is red because that's the position I took. And so we got what we needed from the federal court. And the federal judge, Eric Tostrud, we're going to double back on him real soon, he threw us out stating that he dismissed our case without prejudice, which means we can bring it back to court later. With prejudice means you can't. So he dismissed it without prejudice, stating that he believes this case is in its earliest stages. And so basically, you're premature to be here. Fine, it is what it is. That same judge is the same judge that dismissed our Americans with Disabilities Act lawsuit against Meeker County, stating that the state has 11th Amendment immunity against all cases unless the Congress abrogates the state's 11th Amendment immunity, blah, blah. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to cite all the legal stuff. Turns out, Congress did actually abrogate the state's 11th Amendment immunity in Title 42, Section 12202, when it applies to the Americans with Disabilities Act. If you sue a government in state or federal court under a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the state has no 11th Amendment immunity. But Judge Tostrud threw it out, stating they do, redefining the act of Congress, stating that they don't. So then we brought it to the United States Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit down in St. Louis, Missouri, I believe. I believe that's correct.
Talking about the ADA.
Yes. And the Eighth Circuit upheld that ruling. Okay. The judges in that case were Bobby Shepard out of Arkansas, I believe, Jonathan Cobes out of Iowa, idiots out wandering around.
Don't say that. We have
And,
people in Iowa. We love you.
Yeah, we love you other Iowans. As long as you don't have a black robe on, you're all right.
Don't say that.
And the other judge was Grunder. And he was, I think, Missouri. And they upheld Tostrude's order. Now, from there, we took it to the United States Supreme Court under a petition for writ of certiorari. Those lazy ambulance chasers at the United States Supreme Court only take 1 in 200 cases a year, so they're just gonna toss you aside like a white chip. In fact, this case law that says exactly that. And so they declined to hear our complaint under the Americans with Disabilities Act. In the meantime, we wrote a letter to Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach, who didn't have time for us, so she sent one of her Washington, D.C. lackeys to call us to inform us that
It's not in there.
it's not in her, yeah, but they said something before that. She said, I don't know if it was like regulation over, I'd have to go back and look, but when dealing with federal judges, it is not part of her purview. Well, if you look at the federal Constitution, the House of Representatives, that'd be your congressman, for the 7th District, Congressional District of Minnesota, that's Michelle Fischbach. I believe Emmer is one of them, but he's to the east. I don't know what his district is, but and I don't know all the congressmen in Minnesota, but I know that my congresswoman, Michelle Fischbach, is more worthless than a rubber beak on a woodpecker, because it's not part of her purview. She hasn't read the Constitution. So now, it was several months later, the United States Supreme Court took another case. It's AJT versus Osseo Public School District, something or other. I think the case is number 24 I want to say 279 of Minnesota, but I'm not sure. And the United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of AJT against the school district. The interesting thing on that particular case is the United States Supreme Court didn't mention one word about the 11th Amendment and how it applies to the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we run the federal gauntlet, and in fact, I am going to be producing my book that I've been telling you guys about. That's what I actually got up to walk away from, because I was looking for the cover, but I can't find the cover, so I'm going to show you the illustration on my phone. Okay? Here is the up-and-coming book, and it has Michelle Fischbach, the 4 federal judges who ruled the 11th Amendment bars action against the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they're kicking an elderly woman in a wheelchair off the steps of the United States Supreme Court. And that is the cover of the book.
Which he's shown in court, so now
Yep.
they already know it's coming.
They know it's coming. I'm naming names. So that should be out. It's in its final stage of editing today, and it's likely to be released in the next week or two. Once it's in its final format, which it basically is, it's just being edited again.
Mm-hmm.
It goes out of my hands to another process, and that can vary in time to produce the book. So I would say
Soon.
sometime in December, maybe even this week. It's out of my hands, so I don't know.
So let me give you a break, and I am gonna go back to that paper,
Okay.
because he knows me. Let's recap. Okay, the house stuff, because we're getting into the ADA, and that's gonna funnel into why
What's coming next?
his freedom is at stake. Okay, so backwards, they broke into our house. They falsely served us eviction papers for a home we own. We informed the auditor that this was wrong. They informed us they accepted a cancellation of contract. That was, that's just their
Fraudulent.
policy.
And it's the policy.
When I called back in, I think it was June, I said, hey, the judge ruled in our favor on this eviction thing like they never had. In fact, the judge put in here, I'm just going to read to you one part. The judge put in here, service of the notice of cancel deed was improper, and the trust is not proven owner of the home. The trustees, not rightful actors of trust to commence eviction. She also did this with prejudice. So she gave us the win with prejudice, which means they can never bring it back. Okay, and then we sued them in a separate case because of everything that they did, and including their attorneys. Well, in June, when I called to have them switch, Barb, who is no longer an auditor with the county, informed me that their attorney, who is the lead attorney in Meeker County Attorney's
Brandon Sheeple.
Okay, she informed them that without court order. Well, this is a court order. This is a court order right here that states they should. Then Barb left. And then we went into limbo, trying to figure out about our taxes and all the things. And these are the things that we've been sharing most recently with you. So now we're at a point in this case, and this is where you guys need to be worried, because they broke into our home. They used process to try to confuse us, right? So imagine this being like your grandma.
It's procedural. Okay. They use procedural tactics in court to try to shuffle around and hide the crimes that they were committing. And
we give God credit, because why we started monitoring those things, I'll never know. So once we learned that they took my name off of our property taxes, now without a court order, now they're
we can't get it back in with a court order.
They're demanding a court order, which we've given them. Now they're enforcing a payment due by the 31st of this month, $4,800 about, due by the end of this month, or they will take our property, because we had fallen under hardships with our disabilities. We had to go into a confession judgment for some of our back taxes, which we've been compliant on. So they removed our names, my name off of the taxes. They refused to put it back.
Like she owes them.
They refuse to put it back because the county attorney is telling them not to. But what they are not aware of, this new person in position, is the county attorney is being sued in our other case because she instructed them to take the cancellation of contract in the first place.
In legalese, law speaking, what she's doing is committing a crime of retaliation. I've sued her. She's butthurt because I got her on law, and so she's not going to give us our home. So, and another thing, in the federal case, she was so stupid to not be able to follow process that she had to hire a special, what is it called, an attorney to do a special appearance, because she claimed that she was not served. She was served.
Yeah, our process server's watching.
Yeah, that's true.
So where we're at now is they're abusing their power to enforce a tax debt on someone's they refuse to list as the taxpayer. That is against the law. They don't have any choice. Now, I'm going to catch them up so you can slide back in here, okay?
Yep.
So now Kyle's been fighting his other battle for 19 years here. Okay, you guys have heard bits and pieces. Maybe you saw him running for office a couple times back. Maybe you've seen bits and pieces here. Maybe you have your own judgments because you're speculating and you only know what you see out there. That's fine. But he's been fighting this injustice for 19 years, and it's gone far past it being just a child support hearing where he wants justice and to be given his fair rights. It's now to a point where it is literally corruption. It is literally an ADA battle. We're going they're depriving us of our rights, and now because he's been in these different cases, and I'm going to let him share that with you, we are getting to a point where they know, oh shoot, he's finally proving all this stuff. He's finally proving where the corruption has been, where the conspiracy's been in all these years. How can we pile up all this paperwork? And so now we've got pile on paperwork, his freedom being threatened, all the different ways. We've informed the courts, like, he is my primary caregiver, like, you guys know us, I've been disabled for all these years. Like, we are trying to do what we're lawfully allowed to do. We're trying to live life in peace, and they won't let us. And so now let's talk about where we're at.
You guys see these books right here? These are all law books, and that's not all that I have. Those are, wait a minute.
They're not going to be able to read them.
These are federal reporters right here. Yeah, I have lots of law books. I'm reading all the time. I've spent 20 years studying law and learning that when you lose a case, it doesn't mean you lost. Remember what I said about estoppel? It means that the state can't go back on their word. So, I was brought to court for contempt for failing to pay child support. And we're going to set aside the fact that in 20 years they have prohibited me from earning a living. We're going to set all that from the side for now. And so I litigated that in front of Judge Beckman.
Not on our kids, by the way.
Correct.
Child support on an adult.
Yes. And, hi, Levon. She knows. And I won it. It was a non-jailable offense, and I won it.
Finally.
And that order came down from Chief Judge Beckman. Well, Meeker County was upset that they lost to a pro se litigant. So what they did was they pulled another corrupt judge who allegedly retired in 2017. They did what's called judge shopping. And there's a case in Minnesota, in fact, Judge Glassrud
quoted the case because he's
quoted
arrogant.
it, stating that you can't judge shop for another outcome just because you're not satisfied with the result. But that's literally what they did. They brought another action against me, brought this corrupt judge out of retirement, which I've got him on racial discrimination, disability discrimination, religious discrimination. He actually refused to take testimony from me or my wife because of our religious beliefs. And then ruled against us, of course. Go figure. And so he sentenced me to jail. And
which we received yesterday.
Yep. Which the nice thing is about the blessing side of that is I would certainly like to know how many people are sitting in Meeker County Jail that shouldn't be. And how many of them need to know what I know.
Let me backtrack just a little. This judge is so corrupt, okay? They went around, they judge shopped. So Beckman, the chief judge, who has a soul, she finally listened. Like, she's listening to Kyle's arguments. He's proving facts. She ruled in his favor. They went around her, found another judge
who retired 8 years ago.
That judge came on to the same hearing. They filed
to overrule chief judge.
Overruled her. Wouldn't let us testify in court, threatened Kyle in court on the 31st of October.
Yep.
Hey, you need to file something to tell me what you'd like your order to be, but I'm going to give you 90 days anyway.
But it has to reflect what I'm going to give you.
So Kyle puts together this mandamus.
Petition for writ of mandamus.
Which you can tell him about if you want in a second. Hold it. And now the judge comes back. He defends himself on that, even though it got kicked back because he hadn't ordered. Since he hadn't ordered, Kyle got another hearing in front of Chief Judge Beckman to happen on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday in Meeker County, okay? Tuesday. This judge comes out on the 10th after Kyle's
9th.
was it the 9th?
9th was...
Oh, sorry. after Kyle was already on the docket to be in court. I don't know what the actual legality terms are.
Docket.
Okay. Oh, cool. I got it right. So after he's already on there, this judge obviously sees that Kyle's now going to go in front of Chief Judge Beckman to go back to the order that she's already ruled on. And what does he do? He rules against Kyle. Now, this has been a month over, right? This has been a month past the time he said he would actually rule. And he gives him 90 days in jail to report. We received it yesterday, to report tomorrow at 4 p.m. So then he can't even get to his court date. I mean, I know they're supposed to let you, but he can't even.
Would.
And at this point, what I'm going to say out loud and clear before we go any further is, I think we know the corruption in Meeker County. I think we know where it is. And I think we know that I have a justifiable reason not only to be a little bit concerned for myself and my children, but especially for my husband being locked up in a courthouse where he has sued their friends for 19 years.
Give you a little hint. I will make the petition for writ of mandamus purchasable, maybe 99 cents. How's that sound to you guys? So you can see exactly how I quoted him, compared him based on his threats to Judge Kevin Mullins out of, I believe it was Kentucky. Just do a Google search, Judge Kevin Mullins, and find out what happened, and you'll see exactly what Glassreed's been up to. Also, for those of you who wouldn't know, understand what a retired judge did by being judge shopped and coming out of retirement to rule against a chief judge, is he acted outside of his discretion, and he does not have judicial immunity now. So,
that means we actually can sue him.
Yep. What's the next thing we want to touch on?
Well, at this point,
there's a lot. There's
at
so
this point,
much.
we have letters coming in from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
We have letters out to state reps.
Mm-hmm.
He's been so busy. I got to remind him of all the things he's doing.
I will admit that there are times that I go into court and I have 3-4 folders because I'm trying to figure out which case am I dealing with.
Craziness and madness is right, Kim.
Yep.
It's right.
I have sent out a letter to U.S. Attorney Joseph H. Thompson, who has refused to answer the letter. I did it under a Freedom of Information Act request. It is now being appealed, and I have to give them time to answer on the appeal. However, I don't want to give that away yet. We're going to stop on that one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give
So
that away.
where we're at with what they've done now, where he's sentenced Kyle's already put in, what's it called?
I know what I wanted to touch on.
An appeal. You've already
Yes,
appealed.
I've already done the notice of appeal. That's already in there for the state case. Yeah.
So that because they're trying to put him in jail, you guys.
Yep. So now we get to go back to the Court of Appeals, who threw the mandamus out again, attached the mandamus of the appeal, submitted. So they'll have that probably in the next 2 days. Before they even have a schedule, I'll already have the appeal because it's sitting here.
And in his arrogance, the judge, before he even ruled on Kyle's, the actual order, he actually responded to the mandamus that wasn't even properly filed, but wasn't accepted to be filed because he's arrogant. He's arrogant.
But he took a position now.
He did. And so where we're at now is we're fighting that, but what you have to realize is they know all this. They know that Kyle finally had a ruling in his favor, that it proves everything he's been saying for 19 years.
I want to take this political for a second because I want to cover some bases. When it comes to elected officials, just because there is corruption in local government or even the state government, even the federal government, does not by default mean that there is corruption with a particular elected official. You have to build a record to discover it. I can prove Michelle Fischbach is part of the problem with the nullification of the Americans with Disabilities Act in Minnesota, the 8th Circuit, and potentially the United States, because they'll just quote it under unpublished opinion to throw people out. I can't say just because Michelle Fischbach
broke the law, that Trump is a bad guy because he endorsed her in a first term. And my evidence for that is this. Yep, Trump endorsed her on her first term. But you need to understand that Michelle Fischbach, the people did not vote for Michelle Fischbach for what Michelle Fischbach said she was going to bring to the table. They voted against Colin Peterson, who hadn't done his job in 30 years. Literally anybody would be better. Well, guess what? Congressional District 7, we were wrong. I'd rather somebody do nothing than somebody say it's not part of their job when it's specifically part of their job according to the Constitution. So we know Fischbach is dirty as a rat. But that doesn't mean that Donald Trump is behind this. Now, evidence can come out and he could be like, yeah, you guys suck, whatever.
Take their house.
Yeah.
Leave their kids on the sidewalk.
That doesn't mean, he's currently dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of fraud in Minnesota. Okay. He's going to see a lot more. Okay. I have sent letters to state representatives recently. I'm not going to name them because I want to give them a fair chance to answer. I have sent representatives letters in the past. They're as crooked as a dog's hind leg, and they didn't do anything. Steve Gottwalt was one, and shortly after I sent him a letter, he actually resigned, something to do with a conflict of interest with his job and as a representative, and I think like a hospital or something, like I don't remember. So shortly after my letter went to him, he resigned. Dean Erdahl, he's known about all of this corruption since 2014, which is why he silenced me in the Republican Party back in 2014. And then the more recent state representative who wouldn't do anything was Dave Baker, and he's over in Candy, Ohio County. I had to write a letter to him because Candy, Ohio Judge Jennifer Fisher, who got her law degree, I'm certain from a Cracker Jack box, she ruled against me by not stating that I was guilty of driving after a suspension or revocation, some driving case. But what she didn't say, or the problem is she didn't allow the jury to see Exhibit C or Exhibit 3. It was the third exhibit. I don't remember if it was a C or 3.
Which was?
My driver's license that was just renewed by the state of Minnesota. And she, no, that may confuse the jury.
Of course it's going to confuse the jury.
Yeah, they're going to wonder why the hell they were brought out of work to deal with this. And Dave Baker did not return a letter to me, but he did call me one time. But his only concern was losing her as a patron. I guess he owns a restaurant or a grocery store. I don't know. He owns a business that she frequents. And so he didn't want to lose her as a customer. And that was his only concern. Look in the news now. Guess who's not a Candy, Ohio County judge anymore because of corruption? Jennifer Fisher. I wonder why. So Dave Baker, he's as crooked as a corkscrew as far as I'm concerned. But I still have letters to state reps. Keith Ellison's got one in the mail. Whether he'll do anything or not, I don't know. But in good faith, you have to show people, you have to build a record. You have to be able to show where you've gone to this person to fix it. You've gone to the courts to fix it. You've shown this here. You have to build a record. Unfortunately, today's American legal system requires you to build a record for in excess of 20 years before anybody will listen to you. But going back on the elected officials, Joseph Thompson is the United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota, appointed by Donald Trump. This is going to make Donald Trump look bad, but I'm going to go into his defense in a second. Michelle Fischbach, endorsed by Donald Trump. Judge Eric Tostrud, the one who nullified the ADA, stating that the state is immune under the 11th Amendment, who rewrote an act of Congress, appointed by Donald Trump. And one more of the federal judges at the Court of Appeals. It was either Grunder or Kobes out of Iowa. I don't remember which one. one of those was appointed by Donald Trump. I want to say it was Grunder, but don't quote me on it, because I have a lot of information. It's like a cloud of information in my brain that overloads me, so sometimes my facts kind of get a little skewed. So I said this, but I meant it this way. So, but I think it's Grunder. And I do know that in sodomization, I do point out how Grunder has been several times considered to be a justice to the United States Supreme Court. Now, I don't know about, that means that he would be one of the judges sitting at the Supreme Court like Clarence Thomas, which might be the only decent one there. Roberts, crooked as a dog's hind leg. As soon as you figure out how he got the Obamacare passed by a tax, yeah, I can show you that too. To be honest, since then, I'd say that the only half-assed decent justices since Clarence Thomas was probably, I'm gonna rub people the wrong way because I had a bad opinion of one of them too. Scalia, he was okay. He got some things wrong, but he was okay. And Ginsburg. Yep, I've quoted her, and I know a lot of people, she's Democrat, and I have been against her too. But that was before, and rest in peace, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That was before I started finding certain case law where she's pointing out how bad the court system is. And a lot of people look at things and they say, well, she's a Democrat. Here's the thing. A Democrat doesn't make you a bad person. A Republican doesn't make you a bad person. There's good Democrats. Just look at Tulsi Gabbard. She's a badass. Tulsi Gabbard's awesome. Republican speaking, in Minnesota, there's 3 types of Republicans. There's rhinos, like Dean Erdahl, which is actually a Democrat. If I remember off the top of my head, his voting record reflected like 51 or 53% of the time he voted in favor of the Democrats, which doesn't make him a Republican. Then there are Republicans, and then there are Whigs. Now, Whigs are a disbanded Republican Party from, I don't remember exactly when, but from a long time ago. And Whigs were big government. And Whigs, when they got dissolved in Minnesota, a buddy of mine taught me this when I got into the political realm. The Whig Party in Minnesota went into the Republicans. So you really have 2 types of Republicans in Minnesota. You have the Republicans that are actually the, hey, we need to do away from big government, and they can get off our back and we can just live our life type of Republicans, the conservatives. And then you have Whigs, Whig Republicans. Anytime you have a person who's a Republican, and they're talking about, well, government grants for this, subsidies for that, we need government to help us here, that's a Whig. That is not a Republican. That is a Whig. I heard a speech the other day from J.D. Vance, and I let him talk for a while. I'm very pleased to say that he's a Republican. He's not a Whig. Meeker County has a lot of Whig Republicans. But back to the judiciary, just because there's judicial corruption, Eric Tostrud, Grunder or Kobes, whichever one it is, I forget, Joseph H. Thompson, Michelle Fischbach, does not mean it's Trump's fault. And here's the evidence to that. I voted for Trump the first term, and I voted for Trump the second term, and I'm absolutely proud I voted for Trump. Okay? Trump made 234 mistakes, exactly, during his first term. And every one of them is sitting on the federal bench. And the proof of that is after he was not a president, and that was stolen from him with probably at least a presidential fraud, very similar to what Brandy Schiefelbean's doing with our House. Joe Biden, during the Biden administration, allows a Mar-a-Lago to get tossed. Okay? There's judicial corruption right there. Okay? I knew Trump did not know the depth of the corruption when he appointed, I don't know if he appointed specifically or if they were appointed, when his legal team was Rudy Giuliani and William Barr. You pick any two lawyers in the United States, I don't care who they are, you can't come with a worse team. I mean, you could probably added Michael DeWine out of Ohio. I don't even know if he's still an attorney over there, but Michael DeWine, he's pretty corrupt. You could have probably added him to the list, and you'd have had a corrupt trio. But Donald Trump didn't know that. Okay, and I have seen no evidence to suggest he knew that. So you can't assume that all Republicans are bad because some of these Republicans are not following the law. Remember, there's different types of Republicans. I believe Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, they are Republicans. They're not Whigs.
So we're not assuming everyone in Meeker County is bad guys either. Let's just put it that way in terms that you guys
That's
can
true.
understand. Because half the guys he listed, I don't even know either, and I live with this man. So I love you. I let you tangent a little bit. But where we're at now is we're trying to figure out every legal measure, right?
No, I've got it. I've got it all covered out in the book.
Right, but beyond the book, where at this point, if you don't start seeing the dots being connected, where, yes, it started with two girls' greed, and then it opened a door for corruption and the corrupt actors to
a third girl who's upset that she's wrong and she doesn't
Right.
want to be
To-
shown wrong as an attorney.
but to further injure us, okay? And then Kyle having an actual, finally getting a judge to hear him, and now they're to a point where they want to remove him from our home because they know that he's doing the legal work. This is the stuff that we really need to say. This is stuff you need to hear, because I know that everyone has their political views, and I know that, maybe we've offended some of you in this conversation itself, but it's not about whether or not we're offending or we're on the same page with everything. It's about everyone's equal protection and rights. And right now, we are being stomped on. Right now, they think that they can just continue to break the law and misuse power because we are not speaking out. And so whether or not my husband goes to jail over this, and let me just say this, if he does, I'm waiting on all of you prayer warriors to stand with me physically and in spirit while I'm telling you, we'll march around that jail like Jericho. You have no idea. But where we are is we need to make it publicly, we need to make you
I'll just
publicly
come
aware.
like Killdozer.
We need to make you publicly aware of what is happening to not only protect our family, but to protect my husband. Okay?
Minnesota Killdozer 2025.
So
Ruby Ridge in Minnesota 2025. They need to silence me. And so you guys need to understand that having been a pro se litigant, I'm not on their side. I'm on the side of the people.
he's
Okay?
not on their payroll.
I didn't run for office for myself. I ran for office for you.
to serve you.
They have now realized that I have figured out the game that is being played and how our rights are being trampled. And so they have to silence me. And they're going to silence me.
He's already told them the book's coming out. We've already come publicly before with this. He's starting to get traction in his lawsuits. We proved them right in our lawsuit in just
Prove them wrong.
Sorry, prove them wrong. Proved us right. Prove them wrong. This is why he sits next to me, because I'm like, blah, blah. This is why I don't talk in emotion. But we've done everything we legally possibly can, and there's some of you sitting out there that's like, oh, here it goes. They probably did something wrong. Listen, we are coming to you with facts, evidence. It's public record. Go and look at the transcript. Go and see our script in the eviction hearing that shouldn't have ever taken place, and see where they admitted and didn't deny filing fraudulent papers. See where they admitted.
Brandy Schiefelbein has been a defendant in this lawsuit, this more recent lawsuit, for almost 8 months now. 8 months. And she hasn't denied the allegations. 8 months.
But she has used her power as Meeker County attorney to instruct the auditor's office to not put our names back on our taxes.
Your name.
My name back on taxes, even when we do have a court order, and they're still enforcing us to pay that tax debt and threatening to take our home if we do not, while knowing we're fighting this case, knowing that she's in another case with my husband, 2 other cases, and then in going around judge shopping to take him out of the home so that he cannot fight his cases,
That
so
also
that he
goes for
cannot
Matthew
protect his
Hohenstein.
family.
His career is toast too.
So opinions aside, it doesn't matter if you feel, if you, what you feel in this moment, justice matters. Truth matters. Abuse of power is an issue, and if it's happening to us, a disabled couple who just sits out on our homestead and homeschools our family and tries to love everyone and shine light and host Bible studies and do all the things, who else is it happening to? And who isn't opening their mouth? Who doesn't even know how? Who doesn't even know how? If I didn't have Kyle, love you. If I didn't have Kyle in my life, let me tell you, and this is where God comes in, okay? God has prepared this man almost 2 decades of legal
I think you could say
research.
2 decades.
And God has
I
prepared
think we're 3
him.
months short of it.
Yeah. For 2 decades, he has prepared him. He has equipped him. He has built his brain to understand all of this knowledge. And so when we were sitting here on our Sabbath day of rest, and we had someone break into our home while her husband stood outside armed to protect her, while she broke into our home to serve us papers that should have never been served in the first place, I went to panic, and he knew what to do. And and God allowed us through that whole process to have every little bit of detail we've had to this very point. And every time we show this county, this is the law, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you have to do, they say, meh, we'll just ignore it, brush it under the rug, and they abuse their power.
And the corruption goes by goes all the way up to the federal courts, because once you call out what they've done wrong, and you can point it out with learning the law, they call in a favor to a law clerk. I'll give you a hint. Judges most of the time are not actually issuing orders. It's law clerks.
And you can tell which ones don't read it.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yep.
tell, and I have no proper training.
So they pick up a phone and they say, hey, we got a problem here. Can you throw these people out? They're suing us for this. Sure, not a problem. And in the book, show you guys again.
It's coming. It's on our website.
It's here. Okay. When
This isn't a
when you-
sales pitch, by the way.
when you
We're
can
just,
show by the docket that certain magistrates, for example, are not willing to break the law, and certain judges are willing to break the law, and you can show it by that docket, the register of actions. When you tell everybody monitor the docket and go see what it says, you can tell by that quite often who's doing what they're supposed to and who's not. And when you can show that, and you can show, like, look, these people aren't corrupt, but these people are. Here's what they did. Here's what they did wrong. And you can show the law that shows you quite plainly they can't. For example, Meeker County, in our ADA case, they had filed a motion to dismiss, and I forget what the other motion was, but they were 2 motions in one. And depending on the situation, sometimes you can do that. However, according to the particular federal rule of procedure, I believe it was Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12E, I think, on that one. It specifically says you cannot file those 2 motions together, which they did anyway. Lawyers, what people don't realize is what makes people intimidating, or lawyers intimidating, is that lawyers have a degree. They went to law school, so they're supposed to know something. And by default, you take that as authority and truth. They know what to do. They don't know what to do. Most lawyers don't know procedure. Now, that's not all of them, because there are some really good lawyers. I recently was sent an email on a law firm out of, I think it was Florida, and the client of this law firm, and I don't remember the law firm's name, or any of the lawyer's name, but the client was upset.
He wasn't happy with what his lawyers came up with a settlement. And I read that document, and let me tell you, that law firm was not the law firm you want to go up against. They knew their shit. Okay, they were good. And the client was just upset because he had this idea that I should be entitled to all of this. And they're like, this is what we can get you. And what they could get was right. They were right on. Every step of the way, they were spot on. And one of my friends had sent me this email and said, look at this. And we were laughing like this guy doesn't understand what he doesn't understand. Most people don't know that stuff. I get it. And it's taken me a while to learn how to litigate. So if you're new to litigation and you can't afford a lawyer and you have to do your own legal research, it's overwhelming. It really is. But the more you do it, the better you'll get. And it doesn't take you very long to be able to litigate against a lawyer who went to law school.
Especially when you're fighting for your freedom and yourself and your family.
I coached my sister one time in a case. She went up against a lawyer. She did everything right. She won it.
The problem is like put it this way, you ever gone to the doctors, you're so sick, you got a bad virus, right? Like, you're so sick, you're convinced it's this, it's that, it's this, and they come out and they're like, well, there's nothing we really can do for you, it's just a virus. Okay, they're coming out, they're doing their routine.
Experts aren't experts, guys.
They're practicing law, they're practicing health, and we won't go down the rabbit trail, don't worry, we're not going to tell you not all the things. We'll stop there for now. But the truth is a lawyer comes in and he's just following his checklist. Same with everybody else. They call in, they're experts, they're county appointed blah blah blahs that come in, and most of the time they don't even have your facts there, but the judge takes them as this authority, and they don't even know what they're talking about in the courtroom. I've been in this where I've sat behind him and I'm like, is the judge listening right now? Because that person doesn't even know what they're saying, and so the lawyer comes in and he's just doing his job. Well, it's a lot different when you're fighting.
Yes, go ahead.
When you're fighting for your life, when you're fighting for your family, when you're fighting for your freedom, for your county, for your country. Like, when you're fighting and it's personal, it's a lot different than an attorney who has this whole checklist and a whole stack of people that he's got to help or that he's defending or whatever.
Here's the first weakness. Every prosecutor has at least 70 dockets on their, 70 cases on their docket a week. A week. No prosecutor can handle that. So if each citizen learned how to learn the legal indexing system and learned how to do their own legal research, you could 70 people a week could flood an attorney, a prosecuting attorney, with paperwork that they'd have to answer. I'm the only one, well, I'm not the only one.
That we know.
but I might be the only one that we know that has done it for 20 years.
And I just want to say...
continuously and consistently.
And if you know him, okay, and I'm just going to speak for myself, there's no way for 19 years I would have stood next to someone, stood here with you, by your side, if you were fighting an unjust reason.
Right.
Like, the righteous fight is behind him. God has fueled him along the way. That's why we're still afloat. That's why we're able to come and still not constantly spread negativity. I mean, even now, glory is to God for what we're going through.
Luke 18, 1-8, the parable of the unjust judge and the persistent widow.
We won't give up. We won't be silenced. And that's why we're here today to do this live for all of you. And some of it maybe it went above your head or over your head. Some of it maybe you don't agree with. But
I'm going to start teaching classes to educate people because there's
which
a lot
I think
to
is a
this.
great idea. But I really truly believe that you can see where justice needs to be served here and where abuse of power is happening. And if you don't believe us,
I got one for you.
Go and do the research yourself. Look up Green versus Meeker County. Look up Green versus Simpson. Look up all the things that he just listed. Go back, take notes. If you
I got
have
one
to.
for you.
Go ahead.
Minnesota. Are you aware that Minnesota has a thing called taxpayer standing? Do you know that any taxpayer in the state of Minnesota has standing to bring an action against the government for misuse and misappropriation of funds? Do you know that that can be extended to the pensions of corrupt judges and lawyers? You pay their retirement pensions. You pay for their paychecks. And if they are doing illegal activities, every taxpayer can bring a lawsuit against any bureaucrat who's improperly applying taxpayer funds. Just thought you guys might like to have that little tidbit of information.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that we could probably go on all day.
Well, I certainly could.
You know I could.
You could take the leash off and I could just go unhinged
Nope,
and just
leash
tell
is on.
everybody
Leash is
about
on.
case law. I'll go off the top of my head.
Not yet. What we're asking for is your prayer today. We're asking for you to stand with us. We're asking you to look into the truth, to care about the truth before your emotions get in the way, before hearsay gets in the way, before anything else, to care about what's truly happening here. Because it's not just, it's not an isolated thing to the Greens. I said this last night on my live. It's not an isolated thing.
It's
for
happening
us.
to you too. You just don't know how to deal with it.
And it's happening to people
And I'm
out
more
there
than happy to help you.
that don't know how to defend themselves, that don't know how to protect themselves. And now where we are is like, if we don't come now and start spilling it out, I mean, they're trying to put them, they know the book is coming out, you guys. And
Right.
it's more than just the book.
They're relying on what's called ex post facto laws. We won't get into that.
I know, you see my eyes. I was like, oh no, we're going to be here 3 hours. With all of that said, ask your questions. Put whatever you feel like speaking about in the comments. But your shares, your prayers, all of it matters. This is not for engagement. I said this last night. It's not for engagement. This is for truth. This is for justice. And this is to get it on record right now before they continue to take any further action against us here. That's where we're at.
Are we ending it?
We're ending
Okay,
it.
hold on. Let me just say that.
The kids are going to move soon.
When I'm not doing legal work,
Oh, what do you like to do?
I'm usually doing like farm chores and stuff. Like I'm always busy. I'm either studying something, reading. I'm always reading. I used to hate reading when I was in school. I owe a huge apology to my English teachers, Mrs. Koenig, Mrs. Miller. I'm sorry. You were all right. I was wrong. I read all the time now. And
It's true. He's got me reading.
when I'm not reading and I'm not studying, I just need the mental unwind. I'll go on and I'll watch like YouTube videos of like hunting shows or
How to build miscellaneous things,
yeah,
miscellaneous
yeah.
junk.
I got to figure out how to fix something, or I got to figure out how to. Or I just watch hunting shows or whatever. And so if we're gonna wrap this up, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm not trying to take anything from this individual.
I don't
but
There's
I-
no plan here. I don't know what he's doing.
I do want to steal a moment, a saying from Tim Sundles. I watch a lot of his videos too.
It's true. On the
And-
highest volume possible. Can
It's
anybody
not loud
relate?
enough, okay? I really enjoy what that man has to say. He gets it. But since we're ending this, I just want to end on the same note that he likes to end his videos and say, God bless.
Oh, I love that. That's good. God bless.